Tonight, someone you trust offers you a deal. Steady returns. Every month. No risk, they say. But the real answer is far stranger than a good investment. You aren't being shown a strategy. You're being shown a story, built to collapse once new money stops arriving. Why does it always take so long for anyone to notice? In 1920, a Boston businessman named Charles Ponzi promised investors he could double their money in 90 days, using postal reply coupons. The math barely worked. It didn't matter. Early investors were paid in cash almost immediately. They talked. Neighbors invested. Within months, Ponzi was collecting millions of dollars a week. Here's the part that surprises people. Ponzi wasn't paying returns from profit. He was paying old investors with money from new investors. No product, no growth, just a widening circle, each person funding the one who joined before them. Eventually, the circle has to stop widening. What happens then? The scheme needs constant new money just to survive. The moment new investment slows, there's no longer enough cash to pay existing investors. Panic spreads, withdrawals accelerate, and the entire structure, sometimes worth hundreds of millions of dollars, collapses within days. You'd think, after a century, people would recognize the pattern instantly. They don't. In 2008, Bernie Madoff's investment firm collapsed, revealing what regulators called the largest Ponzi scheme in history, an estimated $65 billion in claimed value. Madoff wasn't some outsider running a shady operation. He was a former chairman of the Nasdaq Stock Exchange, with a Manhattan office and blue-chip clients trusting him for decades. That's the twist nobody expects. The most successful Ponzi schemes don't look like scams. They look like the safest option in the room. Madoff reported steady, modest, believable returns year after year, even during market crashes when everyone else was losing money. That consistency wasn't a red flag to most investors. It was the entire sales pitch. But one man noticed. A financial analyst named Harry Markopolos ran the numbers on Madoff's reported returns in 1999, nearly a decade before the collapse. He determined, mathematically, that Madoff's results were essentially impossible for a real trading strategy. He submitted detailed reports to the Securities and Exchange Commission, warning them directly, multiple times. The SEC investigated. They found nothing. Why would trained regulators miss something a single analyst caught with a spreadsheet? Partly because Ponzi schemes survive scrutiny right up until they don't. As long as withdrawals stay smaller than deposits, the books look legitimate. Statements look real because, in a sense, the money genuinely does exist, just not where investors think it is. It's out the door, already paid to someone who invested last month. This is where behavioral psychology matters as much as the fraud itself. Victims are frequently intelligent, financially literate people, which contradicts the assumption that only naive investors get fooled. Social proof plays a powerful role. When your neighbor or family member is already invested and getting paid, doubt starts to feel irrational rather than protective. There's also a specific denial that keeps schemes alive longer than they should survive. Early investors who withdrew profits become, unintentionally, the scheme's best advertisement. They aren't lying when they say it worked. It did for them because they got out before the collapse. Their genuine success convinces the next round of victims to join. So how do these schemes usually end? Sometimes a large investor demands a bigger withdrawal than the scheme can cover. Sometimes a market downturn causes panicked investors to pull money out at once. With Madoff, it was investors requesting $7 billion in redemptions during the 2008 financial crisis that finally exposed the empty vault beneath the story. Notice the trigger is rarely someone catching the fraud directly. It's almost always a liquidity problem, where more people want their money out than there is money to give. The fraud existed the whole time. It just wasn't visible until the math finally broke. Regulators watch for warning signs: smooth returns regardless of market conditions, unregistered investments, and pressure to reinvest rather than withdraw. None guarantee fraud alone. Together, they form the same pattern repeated for over a century, from postal coupons in 1920 to hedge funds in 2008. You aren't naive for wanting steady, reliable returns. Everyone does. That desire is exactly what these schemes are engineered to exploit. wrapped in credibility and the quiet comfort of consistency. Tonight, someone you trust might offer you a deal. Steady returns. Every month. No risk, they say. And maybe now, that sentence doesn't sound reassuring anymore. Maybe it sounds like the oldest trick in finance, wearing a new name.